So on Tuesday, we got an update, and the next day, I posted a video about that update. And in that video, I did talk about this concept, but I didn't get in depth on the concept itself since it was, I wanted to talk about the update in general and everything going on. So if you didn't see that video, that's the one that I'm talking about right there. Huge quality of life and game economy shift. And I probably titled it something stupid and clever only to myself. But in looking at Discord and having conversations with people on Discord, there was something in relation to that video and to the update itself that I kind of wanted to expand on a little bit more. And we will talk about that right after we watch my logo flash through space to some generic Star Wars one biome planet. If you're living under a rock, you are not yet aware that as of this week in this update, if you are playing Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes and have characters who are not 7 stars, you can now relic them, right? And if you don't believe me, I don't know why you wouldn't believe me. I have your proof or whatever right here. Quiggled is 3 stars. He is able to get to G12. He is not able to be reliced yet, right? He needs to be at least 4 stars. And then I have Captain Athano is 4 stars, and he was able to get, well, I didn't actually have the materials before. I guess he can only get to 2 stars at two relic levels at 4 stars, and that's why I left him at relic 2. That's awkward. A few people were wondering why this change happened. And I think the easy answer is money, right? Money happened. And the first time I said that, I was talking to Phil yesterday, and he asked me about the change, and I said, oh, money. And he said something along the lines of, okay, Phil. And I want to clarify. This is not a Fat Phil conspiracy theory money thing. This is an Egnards understanding economics money thing. So basically what it boils down to is players in the top end, tip of the spear, they've been playing for 9 years, 10 years, 8 years, whatever it is. They are very aware of the game and the way the game works. If you spend, you get access to a character right away. If you don't spend, you bring that character to 4 stars or 5 stars or even 6 stars, and you ignore them for the next 3 to 4 months, and then you start farming them, and you wait another 2 to 3 months, and 6 months after the initial character came out and all of the fanfare, you finally get to use that character. And that's fine for us, because for us, we're used to that. We expect that as part of our game. As CG is trying to increase its appeal to new players, to the earlier game, to the mid game, they want to make the new content in the game more attractive. And the only way to make that more attractive is to make it more accessible and usable, right? Nobody is going to invest in these characters if they need 4 new Galactic Legends, if they're not going to be able to use those characters for 6 months. So what this change does is it allows players to bring characters halfway up at a much lower cost, and it allows players to use those characters. Now, they may not be completely effective because there are stat multipliers on your base stats, strength, agility, and tactics that come from your star levels. But if you are 800,000 GP, or if you are 2 million GP, or if you are 4 million GP, there are a lot of instances where you may want to use a 4-star character who is now relic leveled. Hermit Yoda is a good example of a character who's going to be useful to you regardless. Chupio is a great example of a character who does so well in his team at 3 stars that even before this change, people were saying, yes, that makes more sense than throwing R2-D2 in. It allows players to play with Datacrons in those teams, and it allows them to get excited about new characters instead of saying, well, this character's cool, but I have no reason to get them. Essentially, 2 to 3 years ago, we had a marquee system where you either spent $0 or you spent $300 in order to make a character usable right away. And last year, CG started to play with that dynamic, and they introduced the marquee quest system with the Gungans. So thank you, CG, for that. On the one set of characters that I did want to whale on, it made my life a lot easier. And it essentially broke that down into tiers, saying, hey, you can spend $0 and get nothing. You can spend $300 and get this literally on day one and get a couple of goodies. Or you can spend about $130 and have this character be useful to you after about a week, right? Kind of cool. And people liked it and resonated with it. And I can only imagine that it increased revenue because CG later doubled down on that change with the era system. So now CG wasn't saying, hey, 0 or 330 or 300, or hey, 0 or 140 or 300. They were saying, hey, we understand that not everybody wants to drop $100 on this game. Now, if you'd like, you can spend $20 and you won't get access to your character right away, but you will at least give yourself quicker access to that character in the future. Instead of waiting 6 months, now you'll only have to wait 4 months and you've paid $20. It was a kind of cool system, and that's the era battles system. What CG is doing with this change is they're doubling down again, and they are saying, look, we understand you were only doing one character to 5 stars because you wanted to maximize the era system, and then you were ignoring the next 3, and that made sense, and we appreciate that you were doing that, and we understand why you were doing that. But now we're going to make these characters useful to you. Now you're going to put you in a position where you can choose to use these characters even if they are only 4 stars or even if they are only 5 stars. So now players are saying, hey, I don't want to just spend on one character's worth of marquees. I might actually want the whole team so that even if they are all 4 stars, I can still use them. I can throw them into my GAC defense. I don't know why you would want to do that, but maybe if you are in Chromium or Bronzium, that will make the most sense for you. It allows players to experiment with their teams, and it allows them to get excited about those teams without those teams being overpowered, which is really kind of cool. And if we look at the raid system, and my raid is not active right now, we just finished ours last night. But if we look at the raid system, previously, it was, hey, you're going to get a really good score, or you're going to get 300,000. And until you get that team fully farmed and fully at 7 stars, they're going to do 300,000 for you. And that kind of sucked for players who are not tip of the spear, players who are in medium game guilds, and players who, you know, maybe just started playing because they don't feel effective. They don't feel like they're having fun. They don't feel like they're progressing. But now CG is saying, hey, if your entire team is 4 stars, you can bring them all up to Relic 2, and maybe they won't max the tiers at Relic 2, but at least they'll be able to get a little bit more points than that 300,000, right? If you bring all of those characters to Relic 2 and you're able to do the Relic 1 tier, and you are able to get a maximum of 600,000 points, maybe you do 475. And that's still over 50% more score than you were getting before, which allows for more incrementation for players who now feel like they are more effective to their guild. And the jump between 4 stars and 5 stars is really not that big. So those players are going to see another jump when they can now bring their characters to Relic 3 or to Relic 4. And they can be even more effective in higher tiers. This is a huge positive shift for CG as they say, guys, listen, these characters that we're trying to sell to you, we're trying to sell them to everybody. We're not just Gucci anymore, right? We're Gucci, we're Kate Spade. Why am I using fucking pocketbooks? Whatever. We're Gucci, we're Kate Spade, we're, I almost said Costco brand, but I meant Kohl's brand bags. Whatever we are, we're everything now, right? So no matter where your spending is, and even if your spending is 0, you can play with the new toys. And that is going to incentivize new players into the game because they're going to start to see those advertisements for new characters, and they're going to be able to actually utilize those new characters when they join the game instead of saying, well, I have to get Executor, and I have to farm Phoenix, and after Phoenix, I have to go for CLS. They can play with the new toys. They can join mediocre guilds, and they can have fun with the game, right? For me, me is a bad example. For someone who's played 7+ years, and they see their favorite character, right? Mine right now, I'm looking forward, I really want Clone 99. In fact, we don't need this anymore. Let's make me bigger. I really want Clone 99 to come to the game. If Clone 99 comes to the game, I'm probably gonna wail because he's just such a silly character that I love him to death. So if Clone 99 comes to the game, I am going to go into QuickBooks and I am gonna figure out how to get $140 to be able to get him right away. But I've been playing for 9 years, and that investment doesn't sound scary to me. If you've been playing for a year and Clone 99 is your favorite character, you might say to yourself, well, I've been playing for a year, but I'm not convinced yet. Do I really want to spend that money? And do I have the team that goes around this character? And is it worth it to me? And the answer is almost certainly no, it's not. So that player is not going to spend that $140. But that player might say, you know what, this is my favorite character. I am going to buy an episode pass. I am going to spend $20. I'm going to get that character to 4 stars, and I'm going to make him usable. And I'm going to make the characters around him usable. And it might not be the most efficient choice. Sidebar, I love efficiency, but this is a game. Have fun. Do the characters you want. Do the characters that you enjoy. End sidebar. It may not be the efficient choice, but it's the choice that gives you more enjoyment out of the game. And those players are going to say, yeah, I am going to try this for $20. And that's going to bring them into the spending ecosystem. And we all know once you've spent that first time, you are more comfortable spending a second and third time. So this decision is 100% about money. But just because a decision is about money doesn't necessarily mean it's a greedy decision, because it's not. It's a very player-friendly and player-focused decision that also just so happens to potentially make them more money. And that's really the kind of system that players have been asking for so long. There are so many players out there, and I've seen Reddit posts, I've seen Discord posts, I've seen videos with people saying, hey, we understand you need to make money, but can you increase enjoyment for us as players too? And that is essentially and effectively what is happening here, right? So when you question this choice and you go, I wonder why they're doing it. Yes, there is more coming, right? We know that there is a major update coming later this year. It may be an increasing progressive auto insurance. Brought to you by It may be a new progression system. It may be the stupid red stars that Marvel Strike Force has. It may be Relic 10. We don't know. That may also be coming, and that's probably part of this change, but it does not make this change a negative one. The change coming in the future might be a negative one, but we don't know. We can't make that assertion yet. All we know is that this change is one that hopefully benefits the company while also greatly benefiting the player, right? I know in my guild we saw about a 10 to 15% increase in raid scores this raid cycle, and our raid cycle launched a day and a half before this update. So only about half of our guild was able to do and take advantage of this, but there were many players who had all of the clones at Relics and didn't have Scorch, who are now able to do more than 300,000 with that team, assuming they weren't doing a split, right? But they were able to contribute in a much more meaningful way. And that excites me as a guild officer as well, because I see more progression from my players, and it means that I get more rewards. And this should, to players playing this game who are wondering, how long can Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes last? This is a very old mobile game. Mobile games typically die well before the 10-year mark, and we are coming up on the 10-year mark. A game in the position where it is slowly dying is not making changes like this. They are pumping out content and trying to get out those last dollar bills that they can before they move on to that next system. However, CG has made consistent progress and focus on decreasing the barriers to entry at the lower end of the game and at the middle of the game towards not the end game necessarily, but the new stuff, allowing more people to participate in that. And that tells me that they are investing in the future of this game. And that might mean only 2 or 3 more years, but it also might mean a 5-year plan and a 10-year plan. And that's pretty damn cool, right? So why was this change made? It was for money. It was for money, but it also benefits the players. And those are the best changes that a company can possibly make. And I know, and I will finish with this thought as I'm rambling on, I know that to me and to some players, we say, well, why don't they just do that all the time? It's not always that simple, right? We have to remember that CG has data. CG has numbers, they have spreadsheets, they have databases, they track every player, they track spending, they track engagement, they track retention, they track how many minutes you are in the app before you uninstall the app. They have all of that data to make these decisions, and sometimes that means making a decision that is more beneficial to them. In this case, it means, hey, we found a way to do this thing that is beneficial to everybody. And again, that is pretty damn cool. With that said, if you're here at the end, peace out and have a great rest of your day.